It's Jill with the Hip Kit Club, and I have the September release here, and there are so many fun products in it. I went with what spoke to me first, which is this number background stamp set. It is gorgeous, huge in scale, so it's going to make quite an impact, and it has such a fun font that's just really bold. I pulled out some papers that I thought were going to work. I started with this basketball orange cardstock because that is one of our school colors, and I'm documenting the first day of school for my 3 kids, and the numbers just spoke to me immediately as I thought, how fun would that be to kind of highlight what grade they're in? And so I grabbed just some supporting papers that I thought would work. I also went through the embellishments that are in the main kit as well as the embellishment pack. There are so many fun things. Not everything makes it on this layout, but this is just the first one of the September collection, so there will be a lot of opportunity to use so many of these products. So as I get going, I've just kind of got a lot of the new product right at hand so that as I design, I can start thinking what I want to do. So what I really start with, though, is a white cardstock base and that stamp set. I know that I'm going to want to stamp that background. So I grabbed a mat. This is a Versamat, and it works as a self-healing front, and the back is foam, which is perfect when you're stamping. And when I'm stamping something as large as this background stamp, I love having that cushion underneath because it really helps to let that stamp make a really clear impression. So I've got Versamark ink, which is a clear ink, kind of like a glue ink pad, and then black embossing powder because I want those numbers to be bold. And I also know that I'm going to be coloring them in, and so the embossing is going to help me to do that. So I kind of marked where my photos are going to go, and then I'm planning out where then the numbers go. It's almost like the stamp set was designed perfectly for the grades my kids were in based on where those numbers fall. So I stamped the first one and embossed it with a heat gun, so it is a little bit raised and really glossy and really pretty. And the black is just really intense, which I love. So here you can see that process of just stamping in the clear ink and then covering it with the embossing powder. And then I go through and just tap off any excess, and I take a paintbrush usually. Before this, you saw me coating it with kind of some anti-static powder, and that's also to help it from having any areas where the embossing powder sticks. But again, when you're using this big of an area, you can just go in and clean that up a little bit with the paintbrush before you heat emboss. So I've got 3 sets of those numbers. So that's going to give me a nice movement throughout the page and 3 different areas that I'm kind of clustering together to create these focal areas. So I loved this paper that has the "Hello, my name is." I think it'd be so cute to just fill that entire thing and put different journaling spots in the backgrounds, and as well as like some fun photos. But what I did was cut them up and picked 3. I'm trying to utilize a lot of the different colors in the collection, and I love the balance of the bright bolds and some nice pastels, and so I'm kind of working all of those in. Then I grabbed just a few other sheets of the paper. So I loved this bold purple diagonal stripe, and so my thought is with all the photos kind of going different directions, I can create some nice movement through the page by adding the pattern paper in kind of layered up banner pieces. So I'm just cutting some dovetails into different widths and lengths. That's really the key when you're building up a cluster like this, is giving yourself different widths, different lengths, and then overlapping them. Some of these I'm cutting just at a diagonal, some I'm dovetailing, and just all of that variety is what gives it a nice balanced feel. So I'm just kind of playing around with how those go. And once I picked the pattern and the scale and the way that those were going to work, then I matted those across all the center of the page, going the different directions based on which way the photo was facing. Then I put some foam tape behind my photos to give them some dimension, and those are kind of my bases for the layout. Now I start to go into the embellishments, and I've got the chipboard embellishments here. And there are so many fun back to school elements in this collection right here. So I am just going through and picking out a lot of the different things that I think might work on this page. So I'm just laying things into place, which allows me to kind of visualize what will work, what needs to move, where colors are playing around through the page. And I'm kind of envisioning this as I'm designing it as 3 unique places on the page where things are all going to cluster together. But I also want to make sure there's balance in where the colors show up throughout and and just making sure everything kind of fits together. So I think this is just a fun part of the process, is deciding what and where and how you're going to use the different pieces. So I also come into these sticker chipboard pieces and have those available to use as well. Then I grabbed my alcohol markers. Mine are Spectrum Noir, but you could use any alcohol markers if you have Copics or any kind of markers. And I found some that match the colors here. So my daughter in that top left picture is in 12th grade. She's a senior in this picture. Then my daughter on the right is in 8th grade, and my son is in 5th grade. And this was the first day of school for all of them in those grades. So like I said, it kind of felt like where the numbers laid in the stamp set was perfect for my current situation. But this concept is really fun. I've embossed that background so that you've got this nice bold black and white of those numbers, and then you could just go through and color the different numbers. You could color all of them, and like where the numbers overlap, you could do an ombre effect where it blends into another color. That would be so cool. I have so many ideas in my head for this stamp set because there's just so many versatile ideas. And again, you could color this with marker, you could color this with watercolor paint, colored pencils, so many options. I wanted that bold color because of how vibrant I feel like this whole layout is turning out to be. And so I went with markers, but you could color them in any way. I would love to see all the different ideas that people come up with over the month with this stamp set, because I think there's just so many possibilities. So with the 8 on the right side, I'm trying to match some of the turquoisey blue in this collection. And I actually end up using 2 different markers. These specific ones have 3 colors within one barrel. And so I'm able to get that nice blend of a fade effect, but I also wanted it to not be so bright turquoise that I brought in kind of a deeper blue that kind of softened it up just a little bit in the highlights. And so I'm just going through and with the darker color accenting it and then blending it into the lighter colors so that it has just a little more depth to those colors. You could color them solid and that would be awesome as well. Then I move on to the 5 and I'm matching kind of the basketball peach corally feel throughout the rest of the page, and that is the only 3 places that I'm adding those colors. So again, lots of possibility here. I just thought that that was such a fun way to kind of label what grade each of them were in. So then as I go out through the rest of the page, you've kind of seen I've placed my titles, I've added my embellishments, and what I actually did too was added a little black and white stripe paper that was in last month's kit, in the August kit. I needed just a little bit of black to ground that middle section because those numbers were so bold on each side. And so I grabbed just a little strip of that and added it in, and then all of my embellishment clusters just went around the photos. I added their names to the little "Hello, my name is" tags. I added the date, and that really finished off this page. I thought it was so fun to let that stamp set be such an impactful part of the design. So I challenge you to give these fun techniques a try and share with us everything you create with this September kit. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, visit hipkitclub.net to find all of the details.